For this photo, the first thing that jumps out to me in this one is actually the lighting being used. We can tell that this is a backlit photo from the way that the person who's holding the wine glass, their face is not lit up, and that nothing closer to the camera is very visible. It seems to be in the dark, but everything in the background is very light. And so this makes me think that the lighting in this photo is from a window or just something from behind the person. And I actually think that the photographer is using this type of lighting really to their advantage in this photo. I think that the photo looks amazing for being backlit. The fact that the wine bottles on the counter are see-through, so we're still being able to get their full effect. And then also, I think that it's telling a great story of like light and dark and how alcohol perhaps can blur that line between those two things. Um, Obviously, this photo also is in black and white, so there's a lack of color here. But again, I think that the photographer is utilizing this to push their narrative, and I think that they're using it very well. So I think that those two compositional elements are being used nicely together to get this image of perhaps alcoholism, I think is what we're trying to get here. There's also a lot of open space in the area above the woman's head and above the wine bottles. Um, but I think that this angle is very effective in showing looking up on the woman. I think that it's effective of showing just the magnitude of alcohol. I mean, as we see on the left hand side, the one bottle on the left, it looks bigger than the woman. It's almost bigger than life. And so I think that this is somehow representing that alcohol and your vices can be bigger than life, which leads me into what this image is really saying. I think this image is portraying obviously alcoholism and vices. And I think that using the angle that the photographer did, I think that she's trying to portray that sometimes your habits or your addictions can be bigger than life. They can be bigger than you, and they can be all consuming. And I think it's a very effective photo and a very effective image, and very powerful as well. Some things I would change. I really do like the photo like it is, but just some possibilities of things that I would perhaps do differently myself. I would maybe um, I would maybe turn the bottle so that we could see some of the labels, or I would make it look like, because it does still look like some of the bottles maybe still have their tops on or their corks in, so I would maybe try to unscrew the tops or make the counter look a little more messy. Not just with wine bottles, but what else is going on in this woman's life? Is she missing work? Does she have bills piling up? Like, what else in her life is going on that we could see through the counter that we have access to clearly? I also think it would be interesting to see the woman maybe looking down in the glass instead of looking out onto the wall. Maybe have her looking down into the glass, maybe pondering, does she really want to drink this next glass of wine? So those would be some things that I would perhaps change, and then some compositional things that might maybe use some improvement is I would maybe try and add a little bit of light on the foreground. I know that it's being used very effectively, how it's backlit. However, the foreground does seem very dark. It seems like there's nothing there, that perhaps the photo is actually cropped much above what I included in this video. So maybe just a little bit of light so that we get some kind of sense of where the photo ends and everything, and perhaps even more details on the woman, like what does her hair look like? Is it messy? Is she disheveled? Is she going through a rough time? Just a little bit of light so we can get just a sense of that, I think would be very effective for this photo. But overall, I think this photo is great. I think it pushes a very strong narrative of addiction and vices and alcoholism. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to assume that this woman drank all three bottles herself, so that narrative is coming across very clearly in this photo.